So dasar luar actually means foreign policy, or if you don't know what it means, I would say it as who does Malaysia want to be friends with outside of Malaysia. So this like stance that we have, like this need to decide on who to make friends with and who not to make friends with, has already been a thing since before Malacca. So before Malacca, we had Pan, Nakasuka, and Chitu, and they were like friends with China. So this showed that they were already this Lasa Luar, they were already like making friends with countries outside their own territory. And during Malacca, Malacca made some friends with a few countries. They had diplomatic relations and they also had trade relations. Diplomatic relations is more like being friends, while perdagangan is more like trading partners. So why do we need these relations? Why do we need to have like this foreign policy? Why do we need to make friends with other countries? Because we want to, number one, ensure that our country that Malacca is recognized by other countries. Memperoleh perakuan means we want to have people admit that Malacca is a very successful nation. Number two is we want to make sure that Malacca is a successful nation by being trade partners with other countries, because the more trade partners you have, the more people coming to your country, which means the more successful Malacca is. Number three, mengekalkan penguasaan terhadap aktiviti perdagangan. So, Malacca is already at a very good place to have trades, so might as well take the chance and trade as much as possible. Number four, because Malacca has a lot of Muslims, it is a main place to spread Islam. And number five, menjamin kestabilan dan keselamatan. Because more people respect Malacca, Malacca is able to be more safe. During British, most of Tanah Melayu, Sabah and Sarawak's relations were handled by British. And after kemerdekaan, we have two stances. We have two foreign policies. We have two opinions, as I call it. At first, Malaysia was pro-Barat. So pro-Barat means we support the Western countries. We support US, we support British, support France, and so on. Mainly British, because we used to be a British colony. But after a while, when Tun Abdul Razak Hussein became the Prime Minister, he changed the stance, he changed the foreign policy, he changed Malaysia's friendship circle from only Western countries to anyone we want, or dasar berkecuali, or neutral, as that's what it said. Malaysia went from supporting Western countries to being a neutral country. So why do we need this? Because why do we need this foreign policy? Because it affects it affects what we will. It affects how we make friends with other countries. It affects who we have relations with. It affects how we handle the current situation, because this world is not simple. There is a lot of things happening, and this dasar luar determines how we want to handle the situation. So, for example, if we were a pro-Barat country during the Vietnam War, we will support the US because we don't want to go against communism. However, because we became a neutral country, instead of supporting the US, we told them don't get involved in Vietnam War. So yeah, that's the difference. If we were a pro-Barat, we will be supporting the US. But if we were neutral, we will be telling them not to get involved in the first place. So this is just talking about how this foreign policy thing came to light, like how did the Kementerian started. And this point talks about how Malaysia, about the fact that Malaysia's success depends on how many friends they make. So the main goals of having this dasar luar is, number one, to make sure that Malaysia stays as a very well-known, a very respected country. Number two is to make sure that Malaysia gets benefits from having these relations. Number 3 is to protect and develop Malaysia's importances, like make. This one is talking about making sure that Malaysia is safe. This one's not making Malaysia safe. It's more like protecting Malaysia's integrity. Like everything we do is for the best of the country. We're not trying to help other countries because we want to be. We don't want to help other countries because of we just want to help other countries. We want to help other countries because we want Malaysia to be well known. We want Malaysia to be respected. Number 4, membawa hubungan baik dengan negara luar. We want to be friendly with other countries. And number 5, we want to face the situation of the outside world in a better way, like in our own way. So, what are the reasons for our foreign policy to be formed? Firstly, we have historical ties, ikatan sejarah. Like for example, we used to be in the same country. We used to be in the same country as Singapore, but now we aren't. But we're still partners. We are still friends. And then there's also Kepulauan Nasional, which is which one is better for us. Like for example, we are too close to China, so we want to become friends with them. Or we are really close to Singapore, so it's easier to trade with them. Number 3 is the leader themselves. The leader, if the leader will decide whether it's better to have this policy or this policy. Like for example, during Tunku Abdul Rahman, he decided that it's better to support British, but after he passed away and Tunku Abdul Razak became the Prime Minister, he changed. He decided that it's better to become neutral. And then persekitaran luar, it depends on what happens in the outside world. Because back then, communism was a huge problem. So Malaysia doesn't want to be involved with communism, so they are with the Western powers because Western powers are democratic. However, nowadays, it's not as big of an issue anymore, so Malaysia is more neutral. So Malaysia in the United Nations, Malaysia joining this UN or PBB is proof that Malaysia is being recognized as a country. And Malaysia joined PBB because their motto is hidup bersama secara aman. We live together in peace. So Malaysia tried to show their dedication to being a good member of PBB by standing by their words. Like they are trying to prove that they do value peace a lot. They are very active when it comes to human rights. Number 2 is they are involved in a lot of agencies like UNESCO, FAO, WHO, and UNHCR. Number 3 is they were involved in a lot of this misi pengaman, these peace missions, and these peace missions are to make sure that everything in the country is okay. There's no wars going on. There's no bad blood. And then lastly, it's misi pegawai pemerhati, which is like more of a observer nations, and this is more towards like recovering nations, like trying to get them back on track. So these are the people that were involved in PBB: Dr. Tan Sri Dr. Jamila Mahmud, Dr. Maimunah Muhammad Sharif, Tan Sri Razali Ismail. For their important roles, I would say UNFPA, Setiausaha Agong PBB, Ketua Sekretariat, UN Habitat, ECOSOC, Setiausaha Agong PBB ke Myanmar, and UNDP. So that's for those 3. And then for the remaining 2, Dr. Jomo Kwame Sundaram and Tan Sri Abu Sama Abu Bakar, I would prioritize knowing about G24, Penolong Setiausaha Agong bagi Pembangunan Ekonomi, Penolong Ketua Pengarah, Pemerintah Tertinggi UNOSOM 2, and this is proof that and being chosen as the head leader of an army team, because UNOSOM 2 is a misi pengaman, I think. So these people being chosen for high ranks in the UN is proof that Malaysia is being more respected by other countries. Because when UN started choosing Malaysians more for like delegations, for missions, for these roles, these ranks, these important jobs, it shows that they respect Malaysia, that the UN countries respect Malaysia as a very good country. Next is Malaysia and Commonwealth. They joined Commonwealth because there are a lot of benefits they can get, like Rancangan Colombo, and I think it's the, what's it called again, Block Sterling. So Commonwealth is countries that used to be British territory. So the things that they did in Commonwealth included Rancangan Colombo. So Rancangan Colombo is um, developed countries can help poorer countries to grow their own country, like to develop as a country. And then after Malaysia developed, they decided to help the other countries instead. So at first, Malaysia was the one who was involved in training their own, in other countries, training their people for certain things. But after a while, Malaysia started to help other countries in training their people, in helping with their own issues. So at first, Malaysia was the one getting help, and now Malaysia is the one helping. And then at first, Malaysia signed AMDA with British. It is to help with the defense of Tanah Melayu, of Tanah Melayu. And this showed that British and Commonwealth countries can commit to protecting another Commonwealth country. And next is economy. So the reason why Malaysia joined Commonwealth is because they got a lot of economic benefits. For example, if Malaysia were to trade with Commonwealth countries, they will have less tax. And also, it's easier to export things from Malaysia to Commonwealth countries because they are more friendly. And then they also can like borrow like from the Commonwealth Fund, and people from Commonwealth countries are more likely to invest in Malaysia. Next is Dasar Appetite. So Malaysia was very active in fighting Dasar Appetite. So active that South Africa got so annoyed that they decided to pull out. But yeah, Malaysia was very involved in Dasar Appetite because appetite is racial discrimination, and Malaysia is a multiracial country, so they are very against discrimination. Next is Mesyuarat Ketua-Ketua Negara Commonwealth, or CHOGM. So this is just basically a meeting between multiple countries, and then there's also Commonwealth Games. I don't have to talk much about that. So Malaysia faced a few challenges with making friends with other countries. Firstly, they have this problem with this challenge with international politics. The most important one would be China being more powerful. So Malaysia has to change to a more neutral stance so that they can become friends with China, which is a communist country. And then number two is not only internationally there's a problem, there's also problems in nearby Malaysia, in Southeast Asia in particular, especially in Indochina. They have this communism issue, and this caused Malaysia to be affected by it as well. Number three is if they were to change from a British stance to a neutral stance, they can no longer be actively protected by British, because that is proof that Malaysia is sided towards the West. So instead, Malaysia decided to cut off the AMDA. Malaysia decided to cancel AMDA and instead have FPDA. So FPDA is different from AMDA in the case that for AMDA, Commonwealth countries and Britain can send troops to Malaysia to protect it from outside threat. But in FPDA, Malaysia will receive training from other countries. So instead of other countries helping by giving us their military, other countries help us by training our military. So it's not like actively protecting us anymore. It's more like we are good friends with you, so we will help you. So that shows that Malaysia is leaning more towards a neutral stance. Other than that, Malaysia decided to be more close with ASEAN countries and also sign this agreement with Thailand, which is Perjanjian Hat Yai, to handle the communist issue. Malaysia also had some problem with economy because the more developed countries were the ones controlling the price of certain things, and Malaysia doesn't want that because Malaysia wants a more stable price. So Malaysia became the head of IDC, not the head, a member of IDC and GATT, and begged the developed countries not to control the price, not to manipulate the prices, and help to control it. So like, they don't want the price to be changing up and down and up and down. Other than that, Malaysia also formed Petronas to catch up with those developing countries. Malaysia was also involved in ASEAN. At first, it was ASA between Malaysia, Philippines, and Thailand. And then there was also Mafilindo, but Mafilindo failed. So in the end, they Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Philippines, and Thailand decided to make ASEAN. And then after ASEAN was made, Brunei, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam joined. And this proved that ASEAN is a very successful organization. So one day, through ASEAN, Malaysia had declared ZOCFAN, Zone of Peace, Freedom and Neutrality. So what this whole thing means is Malaysia officially declared that they are neutral, and they also mentioned that they want to have relations with China, and they use ASEAN as a way to give message that they are neutral now. And because Malaysia used ASEAN as a way to show their message, it was recognized by Russia, China, and America, which means that these countries accepted that Malaysia is now neutral. ASEAN was also helpful in solving the issue with Indochina, where Malaysia used ASEAN as a way to tell other countries not to get involved with Vietnam, even though they still did. And Malaysia also sent a few peace missions. Economy-wise, through AIP, Malaysia and Indonesia were able to produce urea fertilizers. And then Philippines were able to produce phosphate fertilizers and copper fertilizers. Thailand were able to produce soda. And because of this, it showed that ASEAN had a lot of potential. And Malaysia actually wants all of these countries to have their own system, to have their own market, their own like large market, their own trade system, similar to like Euro lah. Like in Europe, they have the Euro, and then Malaysia wants ASEAN to have their own currency as well. But that didn't happen lah. However, since ASEAN is very good for trading, they decided to trade more, and then they also have a few incentives to trade with ASEAN countries. And again, the same like Commonwealth, they also reduce tax. They also worked with other countries through SCMO, Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organizations, to help with to discuss on education, exchange students, and also to help with to promote culture. NAM is a way for Malaysia to show that they are a neutral country. And it all started when Muhammad Ghazali Shafi'i joined a summit in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. So when Malaysia joined NAM, it became 100% clear that Malaysia is now neutral. And Malaysia used NAM as a way to voice out their opinions on certain things. So firstly, when Malaysia became the host of the 13th summit of NAM in 2003, Tun Abdullah Badawi became the head of NAM, and the chairman of NAM. And the function of the chairman is to make sure that the NAM countries are able to develop and to try and make the other NAM countries respect Malaysia. So during that summit, they talked about Palestine, and they also talked about Iraq, like how they disagree with how America was trying to get involved with Iraq, and how they disagree with what is happening to Palestine. So they use NAM as a way to voice out their opinion on certain things. Peranan dalam politik is like a similar thing, where they for example, they use NAM as a way to voice out their opinions on apartheid, as well as Bosnia and Herzegovina. And then they were able to make Yugoslavia pull out because Yugoslavia was involved in that issue. And then Malaysia was also able to promote their stance that countries should be neutral, should be more peaceful. That's the best way to say it. Dasar, aman, dan berkecuali. What it means is not only should Malaysia be neutral to other countries, but other countries should be able to do their own stuff. What I mean is, back when the Vietnam War happened, it was between Russia and US. That is an example of other countries being involved in Vietnam's matters. However, what Malaysia wants is, they don't want any country to be involved in it. They want Vietnam to do it themselves. That is what dasar keamanan and berkecuali means. They want this strong powers, negara kuasa besar, to not get involved in any NAM country. They don't want these like huge powers to get their hands dirty with these other countries. Malaysia wants those countries to let them do it by themselves and not be taken advantage of by these higher powers, because these powers take advantage of those countries. They're not helping, they're taking advantage. And another example is of Malaysia supporting this dasar keamanan and berkecuali, this peace and neutrality, is that they signed the Lusaka Declaration, which is a declaration of not using nuclear weapons. Lastly, after 9/11, a lot of people hated Islam. So no, I'm not there yet. Sorry. It all started when the Zionists started attacking Masjid Al-Aqsa in Palestine, and this made Muslims very angry. This made Islamic countries very angry. So they all decided to form OIC. And it all started with Tunku Abdul Rahman. He was the one who suggested the formation of OIC. And he was one of the first few leaders. So they used OIC as a way to voice out their opinion on Islamic matters. At first, when Tunku Abdul Rahman was chosen as the Setiausaha Usaha Agong, his main job is to make sure that Muslim countries, Islamic countries, are able to get the justice they deserve. Like, for example, Palestine. We hope that Palestine will get the justice that they deserve. And then when Tun Abdullah Ahmad Badawi became the chairman of OIC in 2003, this was when 9/11 was happening. So a lot of people hated Muslims. And the job there was to change their perspective on Muslims. Change the other countries' perspective on Muslims. They also were involved in making this UIM, University Islam Antarabangsa Malaysia, and it is to help promote education among Islamic countries. And then UIAM also gives scholarships to people from these Muslim countries. And then furthermore, they use OIC as a platform for Muslim countries to handle situations in other Muslim countries, like for example Palestine, Afghanistan, and Iran and Iraq. Lastly, OIC is good for helping with developing Malaysia's economy, because ISDB was formed in 1973, and they joined ISDB so that Malaysia joined ISDB so that they can benefit from it. And what they did was they borrowed money from the ISDB bank so that they can fund their projects. So ISDB is different from normal banking, because normal banking includes interest, and interest is haram. So ISDB is Islamic banking, and it's different. So this Islamic banking system is very crucial, because it is like a guideline for other countries